Today is the pickup day for one of my Devil's Garden wild Mustangs. One of the pickup locations is here in Vermont, home of the Rising Action Mustang Society, or RAMS. The Forest Service is shipping these adopted Mustangs all the way from California, so this is a very long journey for these horses. At the time of the adoptions, I didn't know when my horses would arrive. The Forest Service has a lot to consider, such as the number of horses going to each location, weather conditions in the winter, and some of the mares being pregnant. Once we were notified of the delivery date, things moved pretty fast. In fact, I found out that my buckskin would be on the first load of horses and would be arriving in Vermont in 8 days. Now, winter weather caused a one-day delay in heading across the country, but they loaded the next day and began their long journey east. This is the horses in Utah when they had to stop due to poor weather and closed roads. They got back on the road the next day and they finally made it to Vermont after 5 days of travel. The pickup site provided us with great communication throughout. They shared with us any updates that they received and also pictures and videos of when the horses arrived from their long journey. There's my little buckskin, the last one off the trailer and clinging to that gray mare. These are the horses the morning after arriving in Vermont. There was an option to have the horses haltered before arriving, and some of the adopters chose to do that. There's my little buckskin on the end. My pickup day was scheduled for 2 days after their arrival in Vermont, so I received a lot of photos and videos. This was hands down my favorite photo, and it became my phone's background right away. Honestly, all of the horses that came to Vermont were stunning, and the group looked so good together. Anyway, now that you've seen her here in Vermont, let's get on to pickup day. Hey guys, so I'm on my way to go pick up my little buckskin. I'm picking her up in Fairhaven, Vermont. This is the home of the Rising Action Mustang Society. They are a pickup site for the Devil's Garden wild horses, so I'm so excited. I feel like I'm supposed to have something of intelligence to say, but I'm just so excited. It seems like just yesterday that I was going out and doing this drive to Pennsylvania to pick up my other 2 Mustangs, Livy and Britta, and I can't believe I'm doing this again so soon. I would have never thought that it would be so soon. I'm super happy about that though. So I am what I call a project equestrian, which means that I'm really working on myself. You know how we have project horses? I view myself as a project, so I call myself a project equestrian. And if you noticed, I'm still pretty new to training. My last 2 Mustangs, they were 1 and 2. The reason I went with younger Mustangs was because I wanted to slowly ease into the Mustang world and get some experience with a younger horse that would be a little easier to train than a full-grown wild horse. And that worked out well for me. Now I'm stepping up the ladder and I'm going with a 3-year-old. I'm really just easing into wild Mustang. I'm just gonna kind of keep working my way up the ladder, just keep developing and honing my skills, and I'm so excited to do this again. So excited. Let me tell you, it is so unseasonably warm. It's like 50 degrees. I'm actually hot. My heat is off. I don't have a jacket, but it's hot. Oh my gosh. So it's gonna plummet this afternoon, probably once I drop off my Mustang at my house. All right, I am just about here. The pickup site had some beautiful views of the Vermont mountains. However, one of the first things that you really notice when you pull in is their field full of Mustangs. These are all Mustangs that they've adopted in former years and mostly from the Devil's Garden wild horse territory. Perhaps my favorite was their little guy, Buck. Buck was a foal of one of the pregnant mares that came in last year, and he was a little goofy guy. It was a lot of fun just watching him play in the field with one of his friends. He certainly brought a lot of life to the pasture. And then I went and said hello to my girl. She is just stunning. Honestly, I'm just blown away with her beauty. I love her color. I absolutely love it. While waiting for my shipper to arrive, I went back to watch little Buck for a little bit. He was playing with a feed dish. Now, truthfully, one of the reasons I didn't want a mare originally was because I didn't really want a foal. Okay, now that was really cute. So I did understand and accept the possibility that I could be receiving a pregnant mare when I adopted the buckskin. But from what I've seen of her pictures and videos, it really doesn't appear that she's pregnant. Many of the other mares were obviously pregnant, and some looked like they could foal within a few weeks. So I took that chance with my buckskin and I made that last minute decision to try to get her. And I won. But I have to say, seeing this little guy makes me wish that I had gone with a pregnant mare. Maybe someday in the future, but right now I am just happy with this little girl and I'm really looking forward to having her in my backyard.
You're so cute!
And then my shipper arrived, and after a little bit of trouble with the mud, was able to back the trailer all the way to where the loading area was for the Mustangs. And then it was time to load her onto the trailer. She took a minute or two to load. I was told that she was perhaps the wildest horse to load in this bunch so far. Once she was loaded, we took her on a much shorter drive to her new home here in Vermont. She walked off the trailer so much more casually than she went on it.
Sophisticated.
For those of you who are new to my channel, I won this buckskin mare through an adoption event through the U.S. Forest Service. She's a 3-year-old 13.3 mare from the Devil's Garden Wild Horse Territory. Many people are familiar with the wild Mustangs from the Bureau of Land Management, and those BLM horses can be recognized by the freeze marks on the left side of their necks. The U.S. Forest Service is its own separate entity and manages the Mustangs a little bit differently. They do not have freeze marks on their necks and instead have a microchip. I do think it's important to understand that the Bureau of Land Management and the U.S. Forest Service are separate entities, and they have their own processes for doing things. I recently did a couple of videos on the U.S. Forest Service adoption event, so if you're interested in getting one of these Mustangs, feel free to check out one of my videos. Now, when I picked her up, I also received her health information. I can see that she was dewormed, she's had her vaccinations, and it looks like she's also received vitamin E. She had some pretty low levels in her blood. She was seen by the farrier, but it was noted that she had good feet and no trim was needed. She, of course, also had her certificate of veterinary inspection and everything needed to travel across the country. I also received information on her microchip and just more details on that. So a little bit later in the afternoon after her arrival, she got to meet our goats. Nathan unfortunately was finishing a project while the weather was still nice, so that's what you heard right there and what caused her to spook. I'm actually surprised at how quickly she adjusted to that sound. So the goats often free range around our property. They're really small, so they can actually fit underneath the panels there and also jump through the panels on the other side, but they're just in and out. They got to know Britta and Libby, who are my last Mustangs, really well. So far, she seems to be doing really well with them. So the brown goats are Cricket and Joey. Cricket is coming towards us right now, and the black goats are Wasabi and Truffle in the red. Now this day, the temperature really did plummet from 50 degrees to about 20 degrees, so I dressed a little warmer, and then I just went to go hang out with her. I just watched her and wondered, who is this horse going to be? What is her personality going to be like? At this point, I really don't know. But I think that's one of the most exciting things about training a wild horse. You get to see their personalities unfold and them blossom with training. It's a really exciting process to be a part of. Of course, you can't relax too long without these kids coming by. They just were really curious, and Cricket came in to snatch some hay. And here's Cricket again. Watch this right here. I couldn't believe he did that so well, so I had to rewatch it and slow it down. Look at that precision. Unbelievable. It was pretty funny and really cool to watch. So at this point in time, I don't yet have a name for her. I do have an idea of what I think I'm going to call her. I just want to wait and see what her personality ends up being, and I think I'm going to see more of that as I can observe her over the next few days and maybe weeks. I ended her first day here in Vermont by mucking out her pen. If you've done Mustangs before, you probably know that most of the time spent with them is actually just caring for them and not actually training. I did want to let you guys know that the gray horse that I adopted is going to be on the second load of Mustangs coming to Vermont. And that's probably going to be after about a month. It seems as though when you adopt these Devil's Garden horses, you get a general timeline of when they might arrive, and then everything, when it starts falling into place, happens really fast. That seems to be the pattern here. I hope that little tidbit was helpful. I've been trying to include these little tidbits of information for anyone who might be considering adopting a wild Mustang or a Devil's Garden horse in the future. So next week's video is going to be her first training video, and I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you. Thank you so much for watching and joining me on this exciting journey.